I just came off of watching this documentary about South of Midnight, the new game from Compulsion Games and Xbox Game Studios. And this is a game I was not that hyped about, is the way I'll put it. Like, I was extremely intrigued, especially because of the unique setting and art style, and obviously, Game Pass, why not? But it didn't have its firmly grasp in me. But after this documentary, I really question if it might now be my most anticipated game of 2025 and maybe even a Game of the Year contender. Huh? Now, obviously, we have to wait. We have to wait to see what happens and how it goes. But why am I saying this? If you want more geeky adventures and to geek out with me about video games, make sure you subscribe, because I want to encourage you to be geek, be proud, be awesome. And here, we're geeking out about South of Midnight, and Compulsion Games' first game since We Happy Few, which I think was, golly, how long ago was that? 2016, I want to say? I'll fact check and put it on the screen here. But South of Midnight is their first game, being with Xbox Game Studios. And what a shift. Because their first game, it was about, a society that they all have to be happy all the time. Take these drugs to make sure you're on whatever. And now they go to this southern world of the South and swamps and whatever. But what this documentary showed is a lot of the creative inspiration, a lot of the team behind it, the things that they did, and giving us a lot more looks at this game. And that's the thing, like, I was seeing these things on Twitter of a bunch of influencers getting to go to Compulsion Games and get to know the game. And actually, maybe live in this video, I'm going to look at some of those impressions if I can find them here. But the documentary I wanted to see, because I'm in love with behind-the-scene vidocs, and here we have a 30-minute one. 30 minutes! I wonder if next year, is there going to still be a portion of the Xbox Developer Direct devoted to this game? So I'm surprised to see that there was a 30-minute documentary, and boy oh boy, this thing is a work of art. I am so in love with what this team is doing now. Because they, for instance, if you're into JRPGs, if you're into shooters, whatever you're into, I legit can't recall a game that has a setting like this. There's so few games that cover being in the South, like there's games that maybe there's a level that you go to a swamp or a South-like environment, but this game is themed around it. And in that vein, they have so many things that we want to explore folklore. We brought in somebody that can tell us tons of stories about the South, and a lot of it being based off of folklore and interpretations of it, and kind of this fantasy goth, so to speak, and a lot of different tones of that. Some might be dark, some might be uplifting, and just all the stories to tell, and including the creative director. I don't know if it's true, but there was a part of this that there was a book that said South of Midnight on it, and he explains his origins of I would see all these things exploring when I was young and wanted to know what's the story behind this structure and who built it, and that kind of became all these stories that I thought of. And then they go to this book, and I'm like, is this something that's kind of been in his mind for that long? I don't believe that. Maybe I misinterpreted that, but it's a really cool creative insight. But maybe, you need to see that firsthand to understand what I mean. But just believe me when I say, from the music, from the sound design, and especially the art direction, man, we see so much more of this world in this documentary than we did at the Xbox Showcase this year, which the gameplay we saw in that showcase, again, I thought it was fine. It was neat. I'm glad to finally see the game. I always thought the main character, Hazel, has a sick design. I've always thought that. But now in this one, we get to know Hazel a bit more and who she is, and see her with other characters, by the way. And I feel like this world is super just unique. That's the reason why. Doom Eternal and GTA 6, obviously, those are my two other very anticipated games this year. But they have settings I've seen. This world feels so I'm glad it's not dead. That's something like Halo Infinite, Breath of the Wild, 2 games I love, and even a lot of worlds that I love. They just don't seem that alive. But this game, it's not necessarily that it feels alive, but it feels so handcrafted. You got the characters that in it, you got the tones, the world, the music, and by the way, music, tons of licensing that they did with like, not, popular songs, but they like created so many songs for like all the boss fights, certain spirits you meet. They had tons of artists comes in. Like, this is a game that really feels like the team, like, cool, we have the money to make a really like ambitious and close project to us. And that's what this documentary felt like. Maybe there's going to be negative people that are just like, yeah, but that's what they want you to believe. Maybe, yeah, maybe, sure. But for now, I'm just embracing the hope that this documentary shows. Heck, I need to go on Twitter really quick to see if anybody because there's a lot of influencers that went there. A quick word from IGN. After spending a day with South of Midnight, it's clear that developer Compulsion Games' innovation streak, see contrast and We Happy Few, hasn't slowed down one bit, and I went from mild curiosity to full-blown hype for this unique action adventure set in American Deep South. That's spot on. That's exactly where I went. I went from very curiosity to incredible hype. Here's Danny Pena. I just finished watching Compulsion Games documentary on South of Midnight. Wow. The team's dedication to researching Southern culture shines big time. This game looks incredible. The documentary music segment gave me goosebumps. I can't wait for the game. John Clark from Xbox Era. South of Midnight looks incredible. Xbox let these guys cook, and it shows. That's something I do want to point out. It feels like super polished. Like every bit of the game you could see, it looked watch this in 4K if you can help it. Like, watching in 4K 60, it looks so good. I think this is a game that easily will be a contender for best art direction, best score, those two for sure. I'm hoping best performance, because the Hazel character looks and sounds great, and the girl that's playing her is really invested in it, so I hope that too. And maybe it all piles up, especially like a unique setting and world and stuff. If the game plays good and has a story that they are trying to land, by the way, of a story about kind of healing, then this could be a Game of the Year contender. Seriously, I can't describe how it went from being curious to now easily in my top maybe 4 most anticipated games next year. And on the Xbox front, I think this could be really beneficial. This is a game that not only looks like it could be a Game of the Year contender, but it's a third person, story driven. This could be one of those games, that people say only PlayStation has in terms of the first party peeps. This could be that game for Xbox if it does well, alongside if this does well, if Doom the Dark Ages does well, and if Fable does well, then Xbox is looking to have a pretty pre-3 good hitters. But if you haven't seen the documentary, or have, where do you stand on it? Because maybe you're like me, before you watched it, you were curious. After you watched it, maybe you're less curious. I would love to chat with you down there about it. And if you want to know what the Game Awards are like this year, you can watch this fantasy draft, which I had a blast predicting what's going to be there.